Children raised in poverty often score lower on cognitive assessments. The data shows a persistent developmental gap that opens early and widens over time. But identifying the root of this gap is difficult. Observational data is tangled with confounding variables. We cannot easily isolate family income from factors like parental education, neighborhood socioeconomic status, or the long-term effects of structural racism. To test if money itself causes the difference, researchers launched the Baby's First Year study. It is a randomized controlled trial designed to strip away those confounders and isolate the causal impact of cash. Between 2018 and 2019, researchers recruited 1,000 low-income mothers across 4 major U.S. cities: New York, New Orleans, Minneapolis, and Omaha. Mothers who agreed to participate were randomly assigned to one of 2 tracks. 40% entered the high cash group, receiving a $333 unconditional monthly cash transfer. The remaining 60% formed the low cash group, receiving $20 a month. By holding all other socioeconomic variables equal through randomization, the study isolated the cash itself as the only meaningful difference between the 2 groups. 4 years into the study, the financial divergence between the groups was substantial. Mothers in the high cash group had received roughly $16,000 in cash gifts, compared to less than $1,000 for the low cash group. The research team brought the 4-year-old children in for direct assessments, measuring 4 primary outcomes. They measured receptive language, assessed executive function, tracked social-emotional development, and monitored high-frequency brain activity. This forest plot maps the results across all direct assessments. There was no statistically significant impact. Looking at cognitive assessments, specifically language and executive function, the confidence intervals cleanly cross the zero axis. Physiological and behavioral markers, like EEG and behavior checklists, also overlap 0. In modern research, the challenge is determining whether these flat results point to a flaw in the data collection or a reality that current economic models haven't fully accounted for. The scientific community's immediate response to a null finding is to test the methodology. The first question is whether the study lacked the sample size required to detect a subtle effect. The math holds up. The initial sample of 1,000 subjects, aiming for an 80% retention target at age 4, was mathematically sufficient to detect an effect size of 0.2 standard deviations. The second major threat to the integrity of a randomized trial is differential attrition. By the age 4 follow-up, response rates naturally favored the high cash group, creating a potential imbalance in the data. Researchers countered that imbalance using a toolkit called Twang. They applied inverse probability of treatment weights, mathematically re-weighting baseline demographic data blocks to achieve equilibrium between the treatment and control samples. Next, they ran a multiple imputation protocol, or MICE, to account for missing assessment data, filling in the gaps without skewing the results. These robustness checks confirmed that even after modeling for bias, missing data, and baseline imbalances, the effect sizes remain statistically flat. The methodology holds. This null result represents a precise measurement of the 2 groups, setting the stage for a deeper look at the environment itself.
If the data collection wasn't the problem, we have to analyze the intervention dosage itself. Was $333 a month actually enough to move the needle? At baseline, the $4,000 annual transfer represented an 18% boost to the average participating family's income. But we have to look at this line chart tracking the timeline from 2018 to 2023. It shows historic inflation eroding the purchasing power of that monthly transfer by 18%. Then came a more disruptive macroeconomic factor. The COVID-19 pandemic struck right between the children's 1st and 3rd birthdays. During this sensitive developmental window, a massive volume of external government stimulus was injected directly into the control group's environment. This comparative bar chart illustrates the severity of the overlap. By 2021, families in both groups were eligible for approximately $15,000 in expanded child tax credits, impact payments, and the earned income tax credit. The BFY trial took place during a period of massive economic volatility. The influx of pandemic-era support compressed the financial difference between the groups, changing the context the experiment was designed to test. To understand how this environment affects the outcome, we can look at the economic investment model. It suggests that higher income enables parents to invest in resources that directly spur child cognitive development. Early data validates the first link.
the high cash group spent more money on books and toys and spent more time reading to their children. But the age 4 data shows a red X on the second link. Those increased behavioral investments did not lead to higher standardized test scores or altered brain activity in this cohort. The alternative family stress theory fared no better. The cash transfers similarly did not decrease maternal psychological distress or lower material hardship. The BFY data shows that even when families increase their investments, those behavioral changes don't automatically produce neurological or cognitive dividends within a 4-year window. While cash successfully changes how parents allocate resources, the link between more books and measurable changes in a 4-year-old's executive function involves more variables than simple economic models suggest. It is important to be clear about what this study does not prove. It does not suggest that money is irrelevant for children living in poverty. The data shows that a modest, unconditional cash transfer of $4,000 annually, operating amid high inflation and massive overlapping government stimulus, does not independently shift direct neurocognitive assessments by age 4. Isolating a causal impact in the future may require significantly larger sums, a much longer duration of support, or an environment with fewer confounding financial factors. The baby's first year's trial is still ongoing. The monthly cash gifts will continue until these children reach their 6th birthdays. This leaves a lingering question for the research community. Will the compounding effects of increased parental investment manifest as these children enter the formal schooling system? A true null result provides a specific kind of clarity. It suggests that closing the developmental gap involves a level of complexity that a modest